Good morning, class. Happy Tuesday. Today's objective is to identify bias when gathering information, particularly from news sources. Our plan for today is first we're going to go through just news bias in general. You're going to answer some questions about that, and I'm going to show you some survey says results from the survey you guys did earlier. After that, you can start working on your article comparison analysis worksheet. The first assignment you have is a news bias survey. That should not take you very long. That is due today at 3 p.m. The article comparison analysis worksheet is something that won't be due until tomorrow. But if you have the time, I'd recommend doing it today because there'll be other work for you to do tomorrow as well. And working ahead, it's always a good thing if you have the time and if you have the motivation to do it. Essential questions for this unit, because later this week, starting tomorrow, there is going to be a project which will serve as your test that will focus on these. The first two questions: what value is there in studying current events and issues? How do we respond as the salt, light, and aroma of Christ? Are questions we'll have throughout this class. The last one is specific for this unit, and it's the question that your project will focus on, which is how do we navigate the digital sea of information to gather reliable, accurate news and information. So just keep that in mind, especially starting tomorrow when you guys start your project. So first, some survey says results. You guys filled out the survey a couple weeks ago before spring break. This statement says, I believe that CNN is biased and unreliable. 10 is strong agree. 1 is strong disagree. So we have literal answers all across the board. Many people put a 6, which means you slightly agree, barely. And 4 people said 10, which means you strongly agree. But we had responses all over the place. Same question, similar results in the sense that we have answers in all 10 of the options. The difference, though, is it's much more in the middle, with 12 out of the 26 people in this class saying that they either are neutral on this statement or they only slightly agree. Only one person strongly agreed with that statement. Lastly, when we talk about not just news sources and organizations, but specific reporters and journalists, I believe that they should never insert their or others' personal opinions or viewpoints into their reporting. This one, most people agreed with that statement and say they shouldn't insert their opinion. Only 2 of you were anywhere in the disagree spectrum of this survey. So most of you say no. So here's what your homework is for today, 3 p.m. There's a Google form I'll show you in just a second. You're going to answer these 3 questions. 1, what's the difference, if any, between fake news and biased news? If you say there is no difference, they're the same, explain yourself. If you say there is a difference, explain what that is. Second, should news reporters completely avoid their personal opinion? That chart I just showed you, most of you agreed with that and say that they should. So just explain to what extent and why you think the way you do. And lastly, is it possible to be neutral and unbiased? And is it important to find news that's neutral and unbiased? So that's a 2-part question. 1, is it possible? 2, is it important? Explain to what degree it is or isn't, and explain why. This is something you will do on this Google form here. So you've got these 3 questions. This is a classwork grade worth 5 points. It is graded solely on how thoughtful are your answers, how well are they explained. If you give me like 1-sentence answer, probably not going to be sufficient. So explain yourself well. It doesn't have to be a full paragraph, but it definitely should be more than a sentence or 2 for each question. Next thing, just to show you the spectrum based on various polls and surveys of where news sources fall on the political ideology scale. This picture on the left over here shows these news sources as being more in the middle. So this would be deemed what would be more neutral. Doesn't mean they're always neutral all the time and perfectly neutral. It's just in general. Sources that are more liberal, CNN's opinion, CNN in general, NBC, MSNBC, the New York Times, Vox. A lot of these sources you should recognize from your coronavirus RBQ paper, which, by the way, if you haven't already, make sure you retake that before 10 a.m. today. And more conservative, more on the right side, would be sources like Fox News' opinions, Fox News in general, Wall Street Journal, National Review. You might recognize some of these sources as well from your research. What I asked you to do for that paper was have diversity in these sources, which hopefully covered a variety along the spectrum. On the right, this shows this is more liberal left, this is more conservative, this is based on the audience that these news sources get. Part of the problem with these types of charts is, what if the polling survey process is biased itself? Right? What if the survey about bias is biased? Kind of dig yourself into a wormhole if you think too hard about it. So here is what's not due today but due tomorrow, and you might want to work on it today if you'd like, but I'm giving you an extra day because it should and possibly will take a little bit more time, depending on how efficient and focused you are. So you may work on this in groups of 1, 2, or 3. If you work with a partner or group of 3, all I ask is that each individual student turns in a separate document so you can collaborate together. Then once you're done, make a copy and turn the copy in. I don't want and will not accept one person turning it in for the entire group. So what you need to do is have people in your group, or if you want to work by yourself, you can do it on your own, read the articles on the worksheet, summarize their main points and key ideas, explain the main ideas of what the article is saying, compare them, and for each one determine what bias you can detect, and then explain which one you think is the least biased, and then explain why that's so. To show you what that worksheet looks like, so we have 3 of these articles. One is from PBS, one is a humanevents.com, the other one is NBC News. So first, just give a description of their main points. Use bullet points for that if you want. Explain 1, what is their bias, and then how can you tell. And then here at the bullet point, don't forget this. Highlight which one of these 3 you think is the least biased or most reliable, and then leave a comment or somewhere some sort of explanation that explains why you think it's the least biased out of the 3. So I'm giving you an extra day to do this, but realize tomorrow there'll be other work besides this as well. So maybe try to work ahead and at least get some of it done today, if not finish all of it if possible. So that's the work for today. Don't forget, retake for your RBQ is due 10 a.m. today. Please leave a private comment letting me know if you have done that. And second, don't forget to finish all missing and late work by Friday, 3 p.m. Otherwise, it's going in as a 0, the grade book. Good luck with the work. Let me know if you have questions. We'll talk to you tomorrow.